Hola, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes, profe, bienvenida.
Gracias.
Buenas tardes a todos, les doy la cordial bienvenida a la clase de evaluación de los aprendizajes para compartirles los parámetros de las secciones por videoconferencia. Las secciones se graban, pueden verlas nuevamente en la plataforma virtual. Les solicitamos que por favor silencien sus micrófonos y puedan activarlos cuando quieran hacer consultas o aportes con el permiso del docente. Le pedimos que mantengan su cámara activa. De no poder hacerlo, enviar su excusa por el chat de Zoom. De lo contrario, será retirado la sección y le serán restados puntos en la revaloración del docente. Mi rol como moderador es facilitar y apoyar en la parte técnica. Consultas por el chat personal o general. Les exhorto a tener bolígrafo y papel para hacer sus anotaciones y aprovechar al máximo esta sección que tiene una duración de 1 hora. Bienvenidos.
Okay, hello guys. Good afternoon. Welcome to this fourth class. Okay, first of all, let's see what we're going to do during this class. First, we're going to have our prayer to begin. Then we're going to have we're going to see what the objective we have for today. We're going to have the types of rubrics, and we're going to see some examples as well. We're going to make an analytical rubric. We're going to see the steps to make a test, and we're going to see examples. Then after that, we're going to make a draft of your own exam, and this will help you to present one of the activities that you have to do during the activities in this module. Finally, we will finish with the wrap-up. Okay, let's begin with the prayer. Well, thank you, Lord, for our lives, for the things that you provide us. Thank you for this class, and help all my students to achieve their goals, and help me to transmit everything in the best and in the easiest way. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. Okay, let's see what examples, what we have for this class. We're going to describe the types of rubrics used in educational evaluation. Then the second objective for this class is identify and apply the necessary steps to create tests. But due to these objectives, we're going to begin talking about the types of rubrics. Okay. According to some studies, we have seen that rubrics in the classrooms help us significantly to improve the students' performance. Why? Because we can organize our evaluation in a better way. Then we're going to see specific things that we will see in a rubric. For example, first, it saves times. It saves our time. It provides a more accurate measures in the case of the student's performance. And it's a very good tool for communication between teachers, students, and parents. Why? Because first of all, it saves time because it reduces the questions from students about their assignments, and from parents. It provides accurate measurements because the teacher will know exactly what to evaluate in the class, and in communication, as I mentioned, you can clarify the aspects that you are going to evaluate, and you can be very clear with the objectives that you want to achieve in this class. So in different ways, sorry, in different ways, rubrics help us. Well, talking about the different kinds of rubrics, rubrics offer the teacher full customization and flexibility, because we can distinguish three main types of rubrics: analytical rubric, developmental rubric, and holistic rubric. Well, let's see. What is an example of analytical rubric? First of all, we should take into consideration that we have to create our own formats when we have, for example, a presentation in class, when our students have to deliver or perform anything in class. So they should, each of the students should have a page that you have already given them with the criteria that they are going to be evaluated in the assignment. They should have the name. Also, maybe you can include here the date that they're going to present this activity. And there, as you can see on top, you can write the total amount of points that they get in this activity. On the left, you see the criteria: first, content, writing processes, laid out, graphics. For example, in this activity, they use a grid with the criteria listed in the first column. This is the model, the example. Then on top, you would see that you need to create the different levels that they would be, or they could be evaluated. For example, exemplary, 4 points. It means something wow. Proficient, 3 points. Not yet proficient, then 2 points. And incomplete, then 1 point. So at least they receive minimum 1, maximum 4 points according to the areas. So you need to be specific about the things that you are going to, about the areas that you're going to classify to be evaluated on the criteria, and then the levels on each of these areas, and the points that they are going to get if they fulfill the characteristics on that assignment. Then okay, then the second part, as you can see, on each of the boxes where you need to write their points, you have all already described. It has the description or the criteria with specific points that they are going to evaluate, that you are going to evaluate according to this activity. For example, in the first line, the content, it says exemplary. It says the content is written clearly and concisely with a logical progression of ideas and supporting information. This is super important, with supporting information, not like giving ideas and they don't mention where they bring this information from, or they don't support their ideas. The content gives the audience a clear sense of key concepts. So this is the perception. Proficient is the content is written with a logical progression of ideas. The content has accurate and useful information. So you see that the requirements on this area is a little bit less demanding. Then we continue on the other, not yet proficient. Information is presented, but the main idea is vague. Some of the information doesn't seem to fit and the progression of ideas is unclear. So when the student has these specific characteristics, then gets 2 points. And finally, it says the content lacks a clear point of view and logical sequence and information. Then the information is incomplete and incorrect. So there, 1 point. As you can see, the clearer we have each of these areas, the better and the faster we are going to evaluate these activities. For example, if you are in front, you have in front of you or in front of the class a group of students that is presenting that is delivering a speech about a topic or a research paper, then you can go individually identifying what is the characteristics of each of these areas that you are going to evaluate, give them a number, calculate how many points they got, and immediately score the student. Or simply fill out the comments, write down the information. You can leave some space also in these columns where you can, or you can write at the end also include an extra column where you write comments. That would be also another option, where you write exactly the mistakes or exactly the things that they did in these areas. So when the student sees the evaluation or when the parent sees the evaluation, they are clear what was presented, and you have your backup on the results of the evaluation. It's not like you give the evaluation, it's not that you evaluate their performance. So it's their points, it's their evaluation. It's not that you assign an evaluation because you want. No, it's because you have already taken the time to evaluate every different aspects. So this is the analytical rubric, an example of analytical rubric. Let's continue with the next one, developmental rubric. Well, in a developmental rubric, the purpose is to answer the question, to what extent the students developing this skill, capacity, and value. These are the 3 things: skill, capacity, and value. So we have to be clear what skills we want to, we intend that the students get. As you can see, the criteria is on the left. In this area, the developmental evaluation has letters A, B, C, and the last one is unsatisfactory. Talking about, for example, the criteria, we have clarity of writing and appropriate formality, clear explanation of self and business, clear explanation of beneficial policies and benefits to society. So imagine that this is a class about any topic in business. So here, A means high level of clarity and appropriate structure and formality. So very clear the ideas, the structures, and the formality, the way the student approaches to the people and the topic. A B will, for example, maybe this evaluation may be in a place where the evaluation is with letters. A B will represent quiet, clear, and formal. Sorry, quiet, no. Quite clear and formal. So it's like average. It was clear, but not, maybe could be better. Quite clear and formal. Then a letter C would be not very clear and lacking appropriate formality. So the student explained, but was not very clear about the concepts that was explaining, and was not formal. Then unsatisfactory, unclear, and informal. So the person didn't speak with appropriate vocabulary, didn't manage the words, and the concepts were So sometimes the problem is that the student uses very short information, very technical words that at the end the student doesn't know how to explain with his or her own words. So in those cases, when you make a question about the topic, the person repeats exactly what he or she memorized and is not able to explain with his own words or with clearer words or simpler words the same concepts. So in these cases, it would be that like that. Second, clear explanation of sales and business. Introduces himself, herself, and business clearly. Introduction is quite clear, but lacking some details. Not a very coherent introduction, no real explanation. So, according to these levels, we are going to evaluate. And finally, clear explanation of beneficial policies and benefits to society. Well, in this case, we will see if the person explains the benefits. This is the purpose, and links the benefits to company of the company to the society. So in this case, we see level of analysis because this level is higher. Gives some benefits, but not as many as expected. Maybe you ask for 2 or 3 examples and the person only gives one. And then it says explains 1 or 2 benefits, but not clearly. So the person needs to or work better on the way he explains or look for better examples. And finally, no real explanation. So unsatisfactory evaluation. Then the last example of or rubric that we're going to see of a type of rubric is holistic rubrics. Well, when we're talking about this kind of rubrics, they consist of a single scale with all the criteria included in the evaluation, considered as a set. For example, clarity, organization, and mechanics. 3 things. With a holistic rubric, the teacher assigns an individual score. So probably 1 to 4 or 1 to 6 points based on an overall judgment of the student's work. So in this case, there are not many details in the criteria. So for example, the person in the areas, clarity. Had clarity? No. Try again, 1. Getting close, 2. Okay, number 3. Almost there, number 4. And perfect, number 5. However, this we need to be very careful because according to the rubric that we select before the activity, the students are going to prepare themselves because we cannot use a rubric the day of the activity and the students have no clue what areas they are going to be evaluated. No, we have to explain all the areas that we're going to evaluate or we're going to pay attention in the presentation or to evaluate the paper or the project that they're going to present, but it has to be explained before. So in these scales, we need to be very, very careful and be specific with the areas that they are going to perform. And in that way, it's going to be better for you to evaluate something meaningful, to evaluate something of good quality, because you explain to them the details before. And you make sure that they understand the areas. Because sometimes when you give them a rubric beforehand, they say, no, I didn't know that. No, but if you give them the paper before, the day of the evaluation, and you remind them with them the areas, there is no any excuse. So you are going to have better results with your group because they are clearer on the areas that they need to work in their performance when they have to present their projects or they have to speak in front. Well, so this is my recommendation. First, explain what are the areas that you're going to pay attention, give them examples, because when you provide them examples, they clarify their doubts, because sometimes students, the level of vocabulary of the students is lower than ours. So when we explain to them, or it's too fast, or they don't get the idea or the purpose of the activity that they are doing, and they do things very lightly. And we have to make sure that they are clear on the areas that they are going to be evaluated and the purpose, because we need to do every activity with a purpose. It cannot be like improvising. And I recommend you to have the criteria stick in their notebooks, because this can be part of the things that you evaluate at the end of the trimester or the bimester. Another example of holistic rubric can be very, very general like this: mastery, appropriate, developing, and unacceptable. So from the highest to the lowest. To get mastery, you get 4 points. It says at least 4 sentences in appropriate order on topic, with clearly identify and appropriately placed topic and concluding sentences. No more than 2 misspelled words. So imagine, immediately when you have that, the person that has 3 mistakes in spellings goes to the lowest area, appropriate. It says maybe you give 4 points or 5 points to the mastery. Depends on the total amount of points that you give to the activity. Then the following appropriate means at least 3 sentences in order with at least a clear identified and appropriate topic, or concluding sentence. It means that they cannot finish speaking and you don't know that they finished, that you are waiting for more and they already finished. No, to be clear. And no more than 5 misspelled words. Developing at least 2 sentences in logical order, or sentences not in logical order, at least a clearly identified topic or concluding sentence. No more than 10 misspelled words. So this is a written, as we can see, this is an example of an holistic rubric that has been taken from a written paper. It may be a paragraph, maybe a composition, short composition, because as you can see, it's pretty short. And finally, unacceptable means only 1 sentence, no clearly identifiable topic or concluding sentence, more than 10 words misspelled. So very poor, very poor. Then what are we going to do now? Well, right now we're going to take some time to create our individual rubric. We're going to make an analytical rubric to evaluate a poem. We're going to take 10 minutes to do this. And we're going to see the areas that we're going to evaluate. Okay. Due to the situation that nobody is here with me, I'm going to do it with you. So let's see what example of rubrics we can create to evaluate a poem. Okay, it's going to be the criteria. 4 points. Let's say 5 points and 4 points. And 3 points. And well, let's include another one, 2 points. That is the minimum. The criteria would be, for example, if we are evaluating a poem, as the example here, we're going to be specific. First, we're going to include here fluency. And intonation. So when they are speaking, they need to be fluent and use the appropriate intonation for the phrases that they are saying in the poem. We're going to pay attention to the posture. We're going to pay attention also to eye contact. And we're going to pay attention to, they don't have to forget any, they don't have to change any of the lines or the words from the poem. And finally, we're going to evaluate their pronunciation. Okay, when we say fluency and intonation, talking about, let's take the evaluation that we have here, the example of the holistic, analytical, exemplary, proficient, and not yet proficient, incomplete. And finally, let's include a poor performance. Then influency and intonation says the poem without hesitating in each line. Makes a pause, but all the an inappropriate pause or unnecessary, but continuous. Makes pauses too unnecessary, pauses, but continuous. So probably those the person was making time to continue with the next line. but continues with the poem. And in the last area, makes many pauses. It means it's not fluent. In posture, is straight, hips straight, up straight, posture, tries to lay back on the wall. Okay, sorry. It tries to lay back on the wall or on the whiteboard. Maybe once. Maybe let's say here. Let's be specific. Once. And in the lowest level, we can say tries to lay back on the wall 2 or more times. 2 or 3 times. And on the last one, tries to lay back on the wall all the time. Eye contact keeps eye contact throughout the poem. Well, we can hear maybe sometimes people look down more than twice. Looks down or look at the floor. Let's do the 2 ways. Looks up or at the floor more than twice. Looks, let's do it here. Look up or at the floor more than 3 times. Never look at people. Okay, look people, but looks up. Okay, let's include that because we need to be very clear. Looks at people, but look up or at the floor more than 3 times. So in this area, we are going to be very clear. In terms of content, didn't change any word. Changed 1 word. Changed the word. Change the words, or more words. And in the poor level would be didn't know the poem. In pronunciation, perfect pronunciation. One mispronunciation. Two mispronunciations. Or two words were mispronounced. And finally, in the last level, we can say that more than three or more words were mispronounced. Okay, that's right. So okay, so as you can see, we have already explained the areas that we're going to evaluate. We have already, let me share. We have already mentioned the different performances according to the area, and from the highest to the lowest performance, we are clear where to place the student, and based on that, we can give them, or we can give him or her the evaluation. Well, now let's continue with the following part: steps to make an exam. Well, usually when we hear evaluation, we think about exams. It's the first thing that comes to our mind. So first, we need to go back to the previous classes and remember, when we are going to evaluate something, we need to be clear with the objectives for the course. So we need to look for the objectives, have them in front of us, then think about these objectives that we have for this course, and then how to connect them to the evaluation that we're going to make. So the exam that we're going to create needs to be connected with the objectives. We need to evaluate the things that we want to achieve at the end. Once you have identified which outcomes or what are the results that you want to get from your students, you are ready to measure. So you need to consider what type of items. What is item? Item is each of the statements, or each of the, in every area or in every part of the exam, we have 5 or 10 items for the students to answer. So this is an item. The statements or the activity in each of the activities they have, each of the answers they need to give in each of the parts of the test or the exam. So we need to consider what is the best item in order to help the students to be clear, and also these items need to evaluate what we want to get at the end of the term or at the end of the, or in the middle of the term, because maybe midterm or final exams, or maybe unit exam, depends. Then, talking about how to determine the test structure or the design that we are going to present to the student, or the students need to see, we have to pay attention to specific things. First, you need to draw, or you need to use different methods or different styles to evaluate the content. Not all the tests can be true or false, or as I mentioned, of course, there are circumstances, for example, when we have platforms that evaluate exams, and those platforms only gives us, for example, select the best answer, or yes or no, or true or false, or the platform only gives us fill out the blanks. In those cases, and the platform doesn't let us mix different parts, then in those cases it's different, because sometimes schools pay a lot of money for the use of these platforms, and we are limited to use them. But in those cases, we would have to adapt. However, if we have the freedom to create our paper test or paper exam or online exam with these formats where we can mix different areas, do it, please. This is the most recommendable. So in this way, where you have different parts, the students can take advantage of their different intelligences. Because, for example, some students are better doing one part of the exam than another one. Maybe not because they don't know the material, it's because they don't get the mechanic that they have to do in order to solve the answers, to give the answers. So, for example, here we have things that we have to pay attention. First, we need to get the logo. It's the first thing. Get the logo, if it is paper, no? Or if it is possible to present it on the platform. Get the logo from the school. You need to mention the term that you are evaluating this exam. Third, you need to explain what is the subject that you are evaluating. For example, if you're evaluating grammar, evaluating phonics, if you're evaluating vocabulary, etc. Then you're going to write what kind of exam is this. If this is, for example, here it says midterm exam units, and then you mention specifically midterm exams covering what units? From unit 11 to 13. So it's very clear what you're evaluating in that exam. You cannot include anything that is not from those units. Then, as you already know, the name on the left, the date. It's important that they write the date, because, for example, sometimes students are absent and they do it in a different way and on a different date. Then we need to be clear. The teacher's name and the total amount of points should be on the corner on the right. Why? Because it's easy for you to see if you wrote the evaluation, total amount of points, if you wrote your positive message, or if you stock the sticker, the positive sticker, etc. Be careful, it says, be careful and do not use liquid paper. Points could be discounted. If you don't write this and one of your students uses liquid paper, you cannot discount him or her points, for using a liquid paper. So make sure that you write it. It should be written. This is like a contract. It should be written. Then each of the parts should be well described. For example, first, change the following sentences in polite requests using could. They cannot use can, they cannot use may, they cannot use any other modal auxiliary, only could. But they need to take into consideration the information that they have here, plus the auxiliary could. Number 2, you need to specify part 1, then part 2. Unscramble the sentences using the conditional if, and remember to use the correct punctuation. 5 points. So you have 5 items, you have 5 points, and the previous you have 10 items, 10 points. You should give 1 point for item. The case that you use 2 points for item is because the level of difficulty is analysis. When the level of the item is analysis, then you can give 2 points per answer. If not, if it's like this, like very mechanic, reorganize, includes a word, 1 point. Part number 3, complete the statements using the conditional if structure. So as you can see, you have one part of the sentence, or the student has one part of the sentence and needs to complete it with conditional if structure. The person needs to include it using the formula, no? So you have 10 points. Well, this is maybe the first page of an exam. So the other 10 items are on the following page, but the total of points is 10. Always write the total amount of points in every part. Don't leave it without, don't print it if you don't have it. Okay. What I have already done here is a draft. Well, this is the exam that I just mentioned. I just show you and mention the parts. Well, one of the assignments that you need to do is create your own exam. So if you want to receive feedback from me on the forum, upload a draft. This activity, we're not going to do it here because the idea is that you do it. Write the draft about the things that you are going to prepare for your final evaluation, about the exam that you need to write, and then I can check and give you feedback. Of course, this is if you want to do it, because it's not obligation, but I can help you like that. The idea was that we could create something here, like 1 item for each part, maybe 2 parts and 2 items in each part, or 1 item in each part, but have the experience. You had to write the logo, as I mentioned before, the term, the subject, the kind of exam you're going to create, midterm or final, or monthly exam, all the areas that you need to mention. So these were the things that you were supposed to do here, but now as you're not here, we're going to include also 1 or 2 items if you want, or only write the instructions that you are going to include in your final exam for evaluation. So if you want, do this draft with these items and then upload it on the forum for me to give you feedback. Well, the most important that I can mention is that everything in the instructions has to be clear. Any person that reads your exam has to be clear. So be careful to to write instructions in the clearest form, and don't create any part that has too many steps to follow in order to answer each of the items. No, try to do it as clear as possible, as easy as possible. And remember that before you place an exam, you have to prepare a formative test where the students practice the areas that you're going to be evaluating. For example, if you're going to create a formative an exam like this, you need to previously practice in class, create a formative exam where you have maybe 3 or 4 items in the way that they have to solve in their final exam or in the summative exam. So never practice in a formative exam one model that is not going to be the real exam, because that would be unfair for the students. So if the exam has a match, create a match of 3 or 4 items or 5 items, and create this formative test so they know that in the final exam, not exactly the same items are going to appear, but the students need to be prepared to the way they're going to be evaluated. Well, what have we seen today? Okay, we have seen the types of rubrics. We have seen the benefits. We have seen the teachers' way to be flexible on different rubrics, analytical, developmental, or holistic. The way you have to state your criteria, the areas or the levels of productivity they should be clear about for their evaluation. The developmental rubrics and focuses on skills, capacity, and value. The holistic rubrics and the levels. It summarizes everything in 3 or 4 areas. And here we saw the example of an analytical rubric as the program. The steps to make an example, the steps to make an exam, and try to create your draft or upload it on the forum so I can give you feedback. Well, reminders, this is our third module. We are in the 4th week. This is super important. This is super important that you are clear where we are. We are in the middle. We are in the 3rd module. We have been gone through class. In this case, for next week, we need to be clear on the activities on the platform. You need to have a written activity based on a video. You need to create a rubric to evaluate Melissa and Kevin, the video on YouTube. The link is on the platform, on the unit. And the second activity, you need to write a test, or you need to create your test based on the Word document that you need to download, and then focus on the objectives. You need to create your own objectives because remember the objectives is the clear way that you have to organize the test. And then you, based on the objectives, you create your format with the headline of the exam, the areas, maybe 3 or 4 areas or 4 areas of your exam, and then write the instructions and one or three items in each area. So you can practice how to create a test, how to create an exam. And that would be the second activity, and the last one activity that you have for this unit is the test. That is about the content of the unit, this module. Okay, it was a pleasure for me to be here with you. I'll see you next week, and remember to do your assignments on time. Bye, take care.
Profe, muchísimas gracias. La sección se da por finalizada.